Happy Football Friday, all you football addicts out there. How is it going, Logan?
It is going great, my guy. Excited to talk a little ball here on this wonderful Friday.
Nice soggy Friday in MKE today, which is great. Great vibes for the weekend. But we're gonna make those vibes get better. Got a lot of stuff to talk about, including some burning draft questions after we get through the NFL news. Got some trade talks, some players out there before the draft coming up next week. We're inside a week till the draft.
Yes, sir.
By this time next week, we will be 2 hours away from round 2 kicking off on Friday. So, and then we're going to end the show with USFL week 2 previews. Got a game tonight to kick week 2 off. All right. So change that here. So I said we were gonna change the vibes, but just not for the first thing.
After the first one,
yeah. So unfortunately, yesterday, an NFL legend, Raiders legend, Daryl LaMonica passed away, age 80. I didn't know too much about him, but I do know that he was on the great Raider teams of the early Super Bowl era. He played against, he was the starting quarterback in Super Bowl, what was it, 2, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm trying to look some stuff up because I thought it was Super Bowl 2, but I didn't know if I was wrong or not. Yes. Yeah, the Raiders played the Packers. Yeah, Super Bowl 2.
Yep.
Yeah, he was the starting quarterback for that game. Obviously lost. But yeah, he was one of those legends of the game.
Yep. Yeah, I just Googled him here to see some of the headlines. All-time football nickname right here, the Mad Bomber. I mean, that's just legendary right there.
Yeah, so played with the Bills, was drafted by the Bills in 63 in the 12th round. The 12th round, he was drafted by the Bills. I believe he was drafted because, at that time we still had the AFL and the NFL, and it doesn't say which one he was drafted by in the NFL and which one he was drafted by in the AFL. And I don't recall whether the Bills were an AFL or an NFL. I believe they were AFL.
Yeah, Wikipedia says he spent his first 4 seasons mostly as a backup for the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
They took him in the 1963 AFL draft.
Okay. So he was in the AFL draft. He was drafted in the 24th round. What's crazy about that? He was only the 188th pick, but it was the 24th round because there's however many teams back then, not even close to the number of teams now. And then you split the leagues in 2, and it's even less teams. So 188 picks deep is when you get into the 24th round. But yeah, in the NFL draft, he was drafted in the 12th round. I guess he did not go to whatever team he was drafted by. Uh, oh, the Packers. The Packers drafted him in the 12th round in this
Really?
same draft, in the same 63 draft. But he decided to go to the AFL instead of the NFL, which was interesting, considering the Packers were the defending Super Bowl champs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's are they? No, they weren't the defending Super Bowl champs at that point, but they were the defending NFL champions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's an intriguing nugget for Daryl LaMonica. But yeah, really caught fire with the Raiders there. And like I said, crazy that he came full circle and ended up playing the Packers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I guess he was wrong because the Packers got him and got him pretty good considering they lost by 19 points, 33 to 14 Super Bowl 2. But yeah. Condolences to the LaMonica family and great player. He also played in the World League of Football or the World Football League, if anyone wanted to know that. In 74, played for the Southern California Sun. 9 of 19 for 90 yards and 1 touchdown in his only season in the WFL, which folded the same year it opened. So now we're going to change the vibes because we got really good news for a couple of the next things here. The Steelers, they are returning to the storied site of training camp. Before the last 2 years held training camp at Heinz Field because of COVID. Before that, they had a 54-year run at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I mean it's one of the most iconic training camp sites there is in the NFL, and I'm very excited that the Steelers are going to be returning to Latrobe.
Yeah, it's where all the magic happens.
Yeah, and the fact that they are one of the few teams that still make their players stay in dorm rooms is just crazy.
Yep.
I think the Chiefs still do that too when they go to Missouri Western, I think it is called. More good news here. The 2022 NFL schedule will be released on May 12th. Very excited for that. Obviously, every year the schedule release is a big deal. They probably make way too much money on that and create a whole 2-hour show on NFL Network and about the schedule release that is unnecessary. But but anyways, CBS Sports put out a thing today that with the NFL schedule release, there's expected to be a Christmas triple header included in the NFL schedule. We know they do that for Thanksgiving triple header, but now a Christmas one, which will make my family even more mad at me on Christmas. Whenever
I was just going to say the exact same thing.
Instead of paying attention to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about that. Always interested to see, the rookie matchups and the guys that were traded if they're playing their old team and when. I know I always get my calendar, take it off the cork board that I have it pinned to, and write them all down, write all my team's games down. So.
Yeah. Yep. After the draft, we'll have a little bit more info on how these rosters are going to look, and I'm excited to have the schedule release and do some pick'ems. It'll be
Yes, we will the predicting will start.
Yep.
One note for the draft, Jags GM Trent Baalke today said that they haven't received any calls directly talking about trading for the number 1 pick, which everything that I've heard is, expected. There's not a top player, a consensus top player anyways this year. And there's no quarterbacks that anyone wants to come up and get. So yeah, it's normal that no one would be interested in the number 1 pick.
Yeah. I mean, the closest thing we have to a consensus number 1 pick is Aiden Hutchinson, but I mean, he's an outstanding prospect, obviously, but he's not like that Myles Garrett, Chase Young, Nick Bosa, like generational type, prospect. He's a very high end prospect, blue chip even, but not that like generational. You'll have teams wanting to trade multiple draft picks to secure him type guy.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure that he is going to be the number 1 pick. And it seems like the Jags aren't either. Baalke also said in his pre-draft presser that they have narrowed their selection down, and there's 4 players in that. So I would have to think it's Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, Ike Mekwonu, and Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yep.
I don't think Evan Neal's in consideration anymore.
I would not be surprised if they shocked the world and took Trayvon Walker.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Georgia boy going number 1. That's fine with me. That's why I wore my Big Ben jersey, because I'm going to be talking about some of the quarterbacks for the draft, and also had to wear my Georgia hat because many Georgia players are going to go in the first round.
Yes.
At least
quite a lot.
At least 4.
Yeah.
Some other notes here. Eagles, former 2nd round pick wide receiver JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He's transitioning to tight end. Not sure how much that's going to work out for him. He has been an absolute bust as a receiver. Pegged as a jump ball, get up and get it guy. I mean, he's 6'4". He should be that. And he was that at Stanford, but he just never materialized in the NFL so far. So we'll see. The Eagles have a pretty good tight end room, headlined by Dallas Goedert. I believe we still have Richard Rodgers. And even Tyree Jackson was doing very well before he injured his back early last year, and wasn't the same when he came back. But if there's one spot, it's the 3rd tight end spot. So
yeah, and I mean, I think if you're JJ Arcega-Whiteside, you gotta try something to kind of catch on. Wide receiver, weren't really able to crack a rollout for yourself there. So I mean, yeah, I guess try a tight end.
Yeah, and I can't remember. This year is going to be his last year of his rookie deal, I believe. I think he was drafted in 2019, so 19, 20, 21, 22. So, yeah, I think this is the last year of his rookie deal. We have a guy that wants to come back and play and a guy that's looking at retirement. So, first guy, former Seahawks and Ravens safety Earl Thomas, looking to return to the league. He's 33 now. Last played for the Ravens in 2019. Did not end well at all. Had a spat with whoever within the Ravens organization. They cut him, and no one signed him since. So I don't know. 33, that's tough.
Yeah. Well, that whole saga ending ended in such a weird way. And I mean, he's 33, last played, what, 3 years ago? He's 2019. Like, yeah, that's just not a recipe for, I mean, maybe he signs with the team in like training camp, but yeah, I don't see him making a 53-man roster, at least at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they would do it. It seems like they're always looking for safeties, and Dan Quinn is still there, but the Cowboys, they were always linked to Earl Thomas
Mm-hmm.
whenever he was a free agent before the Ravens signed him. And they didn't get him signed, so maybe. I don't know. And the second guy I was talking about, free agent wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, possibly looking at retirement. I didn't write down how old Djax is, but he did say that there are at least 4 teams he would be willing to play one more season for. He wants to play with a team that has a great quarterback. He said, not a good quarterback, a great quarterback. And he listed 4 teams. He said the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, the Browns with Deshaun Watson, Broncos with Russell Wilson, and the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Those are 4 teams, at least the 4 teams that he said he would be willing to play for.
Yeah, I mean, all those teams except maybe the Broncos they do need a deep threat. I don't know too much about where Deshaun Jackson's at this stage of his career, if he can still be that take the top off the defense guy. You wonder where his speed at. He's 35, so age 35.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I've seen him play the last couple of years, he can still burn. It's just the fact of how many games you're going to get.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last season he played a whole year. Probably one of his last couple of years with the Eagles, I would think. Because I don't think he played a full season with the Bucks in his one season there. He definitely didn't play either of his 2 years that he returned to Philly. He never played a full season. And I think he played all the games he was on the Rams with last year, but then I think he got hurt when he went to Vegas. So that's the biggest issue I have with Deshaun Jackson right now is, can he stay on the field?
Right. Yeah. I mean, as a Packers fan, I wouldn't be opposed to it because, I mean, as currently constructed, we don't have a guy, who can take that top off the defense. That could change in the draft, or it may not. Maybe you come away with, a couple of receivers who are really good prospects, but play different roles than the speed, take the top off the defense, and you need a guy like that to come in to be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, it would be fun kind of see if he can, have kind of a storied end to his career, which he's been a very fun player for a pretty long time. Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be cool to kind of see him on like the Chiefs or the Packers, where he can be that kind of deep play threat if he can be healthy.
Yeah, so I forgot about, for one, that he played 2 years in Tampa, and I forgot about his 3 years in Washington too. And last year he did play last year we had 17 games, so technically he didn't play all. He played 16 last year. But the last time he played a full season was 2013 when he went to the Pro Bowl in his last season with Philly. That was the only time he started all 16 games too. Yeah, he's only played full season twice. His rookie year 2013, and then technically last year, if you want to count 16 games, even though there were 17.
Mhm.
But he only started 4 out of 16 last year. So, okay. Let's talk some trades. So, biggest thing that everyone's talking about right now going into the draft. It's a Niners trade. That is not Jimmy Garoppolo. It is wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Last year of his deal, he wants to get traded. He requested a trade officially last week or earlier this week. I think the crazy thing about it, as I have noted under that nugget, is his agent is also the same agent for DK Metcalf and AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
All three looking for new deals.
Yep. That guy is going to get paid.
Yeah, that commission is going to be very nice once he gets all three of those guys signed.
Yep.
But who do we think, if he is traded, which I don't think that there's any way he won't be, considering it sounded like the way that Rappaport put it in a couple of things I've heard from him is that the money isn't an issue. It's the fact that he doesn't want to play for San Francisco anymore. And I heard one thing too, that he didn't like how he was utilized last year. He didn't like running the ball, which makes sense, because if he does that, for one, it takes off his career lifespan. And for two, he's not going to get paid as much.
Mm.
He's not going to get paid like a wide receiver. It's the same thing that we have the issue with, when it comes time for pass rush contracts. Are you a linebacker or are you a defensive end?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I kind of see both sides of it. It's difficult because, just like you said, he doesn't want to have that wear and tear on his body. That'll affect the pocketbook, especially since he already has an injury history. Mm-hmm. But I mean, part of what makes him such a weapon is his versatility. And I mean, any team who's going to be trading away big time capital and then having to pay him a bunch of money is probably going to be looking for that versatility. So it's kind of a catch-22. And I don't know, I don't know how that's going to get resolved. But I mean, yeah, this surprised me when I saw it come through. I think I mentioned on Monday's, podcast, I didn't think Deebo was going to get traded because of how important he was to the 49ers offense. Shows you what I know. It took all of like 24 hours for that to change. But yeah, I mean, I think it is Deebo Samuel wanting a different role, and probably Kyle Shanahan saying, like, I'm a good coach. I'll find somebody else to fill that role. We'll either draft somebody or we'll put Brandon Ayuk in that role, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I don't know. Losing a talent like him is not going to be good for your football team, and it is especially not going to be good when you're trying to develop a young quarterback. So yeah,
I just don't know. Well, for one, I'm stubborn when it comes to trades as a GM. I've said about multiple trades before that I wasn't willing to part with high draft picks for certain players. I remember one of them was the Julio trade. I ended up being very right about that situation. I don't remember what the other one. There was another one that I said Aaron Rodgers. If he would have been traded, I was not willing to trade for multiple first round picks for a 38-year-old quarterback. But this one's the same thing. I already mentioned his agent Reps AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. I'd rather have AJ Brown or DK Metcalf than Deebo Samuel. I want a number one wide receiver. I don't want a guy that is going to do the Cordell Patterson thing and catch and run.
Right. Well, especially if he only wants to be a wide receiver. Because like I said, as good as he is as a wide receiver, he's better in that hybrid role. That's like what you want him for. Those other two guys are better as number one wide receiving options. So, yeah it's like catch-22.
And to pay him the price that the wide receiver market is right now at close to $25 million per season.
Yep.
I mean, I just can't justify that in my mind with a guy like Deebo Samuel. And I think I heard there was only one team that can afford to fit him under the cap and has the draft capital to go get him. And that's New York Jets. So whether they're the leading candidate, I don't know. But the odds makers right now on where I just saw it on a tweet today, where Deebo is playing next season, they still have it at minus 300 with San Francisco. So I don't know how that's possible, but
yeah, that's not a good bet. Don't take that one.
Yeah, do not eat the juice. Okay. Another trade possible that's coming up. The Giants have said that they have been getting calls about corner James Bradbury. I have no clue why the Giants would ever trade James Bradbury. He's their best corner by far. I really don't know what else they have at the position. Unless they're blown away by a trade, I highly doubt this one gets done.
Yeah, I think it's, from what I've heard, it's like a money issue thing. Like, the contract just isn't working for them. Because this is actually something that you've been hearing rumblings about for a couple weeks now, about them potentially moving on from Bradbury. And I think it's a similar situation to the Cowboys having to move on from Amari Cooper. Like, he's a great player. He's your number one cornerback, but if you can't make the money work, you might have to unload him. It could also mean that at either 5 or 7, they love one of these top corner prospects, either Sauce or Stingley. So could be that.
Yeah, so it's not completely barren at the position, but without Bradbury, it would look pretty bad. They have Adoree Jackson, who I'm still not a believer in. I was never a believer when he got drafted by Tennessee. I'm still not a believer. Rodarius Williams, I remember his name. I can't remember where he played before.
OSU, Oklahoma State.
And then they have Darnay Holmes as well. So that's their top 4. Aaron Robinson is number 5, who they drafted last year, I think. Yeah, 3rd round pick last year. So, yeah.
And I mean, that Wink Martindale is the new DC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they need cornerbacks in that defense for it to function. So
yeah, that would also, because he runs a man scheme, doesn't he?
I think so.
I think I'm trying to remember what they were running in Baltimore. But yeah, that would make sense schematically as well, because James Bradbury is a zone corner. He played zone under Sean McDermott in Carolina, and I don't remember who took over for Sean McDermott at DC in Carolina, but I remember he definitely is better at playing zone for sure. Okay, some re-signings here. The Steelers just like 20 minutes ago. Actually, it's more like 40 minutes, 45 minutes ago. They re-signed former first-round pick safety Terrell Edmonds, 1 year, $2.5 million deal. I'm guessing that Terrell. Well, actually, I'm gonna recant that. He did have two other offers on the table. Decided to return to Pittsburgh, but I'm assuming that he did not get the money that he thought he was going to get. And the safety market overall has been just a shit show this offseason. So, except for the couple guys that got paid big money, like Marcus Williams and Marcus May.
Yep. Yeah. It's a position that feels like it's becoming undervalued in the NFL, which I don't really understand because traditionally safety can play a big role as like the QB of the defense. You know, you're roaming in space, you're trying to disguise where you're going to confuse, you know, the offense. I mean, huge part of quarterback success is being able to look off safeties. So if you have a really good safety who isn't fooled, I mean, that completely changes your defense. But for some reason, safeties are becoming, I mean, we're talking about, I mean, Kyle Hamilton is being talked about as falling out of the top 10 because he's a safety. So I don't know. It's interesting. And
yeah.
Same thing with off-ball linebacker. You know, a lot of linebackers wear the green dot. They're calling defensive plays, but teams aren't valuing them as much. So,
yeah, I think obviously we still have the same top two most important positions, quarterback and then pass rusher. I would probably put number one pass rusher above left tackle. But now it seems like the way that the market is going, it seems like number one wide receiver has moved into fourth. Maybe even pushing left tackle for third at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, even number one corner is pushing safety out. And then teams are paying, guards and defensive tackles and putting those in positions above safety as well. So
yep.
It's all about the trenches though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Jets also had a re-signing. They re-signed defensive end Vinny Curry. I was kind of surprised about that. Curry's had a very steady decline from his Philadelphia days. His first time in Philadelphia, I should say, because he's been in Philadelphia a couple times. But yeah, he's going into his 11th season, and it's just he's fallen off quite a bit. But the Jets need all the pass rush help they can get. So,
yeah. I mean, that could be like a depth signing to where like maybe they get a guy at 10 or 4 that they like, and you have veterans on the D line who can help, be pseudo coaches to kind of bring that guy up. I don't know, or it's a continuity thing to where Saleh feels comfortable with him understanding the defense. So could be that.
Yeah, and the reason why he didn't play at all last year, diagnosed with the rare blood disorder that he had to take medication.
Wow.
Blood thinners. So, the Jets released him in January, and now they re-signed it. So, but yeah, Super Bowl champ though, Vinny Curry.
Yes, sir.
The Bills, they signed Titans offensive lineman David Quessenberry. Q has had a nice career as a former 7th-round pick. And that was one of the areas the Bills wanted to work on this offseason was offensive line and offensive line depth. So a guy that started 23 games over his career, 6th-round pick, my bad, with the Texans, 2013. But has carved out a nice backup role throughout his career. And he was a starter with the Titans for a couple of seasons. So, yeah. 1-year deal there for Big Quests. All right. Wrapping up the news here. A couple visits this week. The Saints, they hosted Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry. Would be a big get for them. I think they're one of the couple of wide receiver cores out there that's not very good right now, outside of Michael Thomas, who we don't know if he's even going to come back. If he's going to be Michael Thomas again. So, Browns are still in it though for Jarvis, which I think Deshaun Watson would want him back, but. Yeah, Saints looking into it anyways.
Yeah. I mean, they need help. They need depth. And the thing with Michael Thomas, like you said, we don't know if he's coming back. And I mean, he hasn't played since when? Like since I mean, he didn't play at all last year, did he?
No.
Yeah. And he didn't play a lot in 2020, if I recall. So, I mean, he might not even be that same dude coming back. So,
yeah,
they definitely need some help there. I expect them to do it in the draft. And, it's good that they're kicking the tires on some veterans.
And then finally, the Seahawks hosted a pair of defensive guys here. Bills defensive end Mario Addison and Cowboys safety DeMonte KZ. Both areas of need. Definitely defensive end is for the Seahawks. Safety, not as much, but I'm trying to remember who Jamal Adams' running mate is back there.
Andre Diggs, right?
Andre Diggs. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They signed him. So maybe KZ doesn't get signed, but I think Addison could help them out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Considering I think they were still dumb to release Carlos Dunlap. He was their best pass rusher.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, there's some business decisions that go on, and they did get Shelby Harris in the trade for Russell Wilson, but he wasn't a outside linebacker in their 3-4 in Denver. He was a 3-4 D end, and now he's playing. Yep. He's listed as a D end in their 4-3 base in Seattle.
Right. Yeah.
So, and literally, they only have 2 defensive ends listed: him and LJ Collier. That's it.
Yeah, they need help. They need help badly.
And LJ Collier, the great first-round pick, John Schneider.
Man, he has had some rough. It's been a tough scene since the Legion of Boom days. I'll tell you that.
But yeah, him and Pete still keep it going. They're still there.
Yep.
All right, that is all of the NFL news. I don't see anything new on the Twitter feed, so let's get into burning draft questions. Have a couple written down here that I think should get some good conversation going, even though we only have two of us and it's not like a round table. But
Mhm.
starting off, we're going to start at the top of the draft. Who is your number one pick? I already kind of talked about mine a little bit.
Mhm.
Number one pick, though, Logan.
Yeah, I think number one pick. I think it is going to be Aiden Hutchinson. I think them signing Brandon Scherf, placing the tag on Cam Robinson. It's not out of the question. OT for sure. Especially if they think a guy can be a franchise guy like Aquanu, Neil, even Charles Cross. But I do think it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson, and I think he does deserve that spot. I mean, you talk about a guy, we've been talking about a lot of freaks, like Trevon Walker, but Aiden Hutchinson is an athletic freak. his relative athletic score is not that much lower than Trevon Walker's. His 3-cone is in the 99th percentile, which is it's absurd. And 3-cone it's one of those that's it. It's a pretty good indicator for edges because it's bend, it's agility, it's that kind of deal. And you look at his production at Michigan. One things you want to look for is like progression, right? In prospects, like how did they progress? Well, I mean, his is basically like a linear development, So yeah, I mean, it's super high floor, but it's not like he has a low ceiling either because he's so athletic. So I do think he's going to end up being the number one guy. I think he probably deserves that distinction. But yeah, like we said earlier, I still would not be shocked though if Trevon Walker makes that move, So
Yeah, that's who I'm going with. I'm not sold that the Jags are sold on Aiden Hutchinson. I think the Jags organization is one that has been, they just like are so starstruck at
mm-hmm,
potential.
mm-hmm.
And that's what people have been saying about Trayvon Walker is that his potential is so massive to be the number one pass rusher. And the craziest thing about this for the Jags is that they don't even need a number one pass rusher. They already have one in
Right.
Josh Allen.
Yes.
But, I just, especially with that security blanket in Josh Allen, I think taking the guy with the higher potential, granted, I think it's very close with Hutchinson and Walker, but I just think the Jags are going to go with Walker instead of Hutchinson because of that ceiling. Now the floor is probably lower, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And I'll say this much. I love Trayvon Walker as a prospect. I mean, he's literally a one-of-one athlete. And you look on tape, right? You watch him play. He is physical. I mean, he just does not fear contact. He will stick his face in there, take on down blocks, take on pullers, do anything. People always bring up the production with him. But I have two things that to kind of say when people bring up the production. One, he played a different role for Georgia than what he's probably going to play at the NFL. They kicked him kind of inside a lot in kind of like a, hand in the dirt DE. His athleticism is going to allow him to transition to stand-up edge, I think, almost seamlessly. There will probably be a little bit of a learning curve, but when you're that much of a freak, you're going to be able to pick things up a little bit better. Your athleticism is going to make up for that. And the second thing is, he was on the D line at Georgia. They got literally 6 dudes who are all elite D linemen. And one of their better ones isn't even coming out in the draft, and Jalen Carter. He's not coming out until next year. So that's what I have to say when people bring up his production. I don't think it's going to be a problem with the next level. He's a guy that I am buying into the hype with. I don't know if I'd go so far as to take him number 1 overall, because like I said, I think a lot of the draft too is mitigating risk. And like I said, Aiden Hutchinson has a super high floor, and he also does have pretty awesome athleticism. But, I would have no problems taking Trevon Walker top 5, or if I'm the Lions, at 2. I would have no problems doing that. So I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be a great player at the next level. Yeah. So, I mean, if the Jags do take him, I would not be surprised.
That's what the perfect transition was too. Is he your number 2 then? Is he your number 2 for the Lions there?
Yep. Yeah. If he's on the board there, I would definitely consider it. Now, the thing is, there's a difference between, I think, especially when you're doing mock drafts, it's, what would you do versus what do you think is going to happen? I do think that Trevon Walker will be a top 2 pick in this draft. If the Jags don't fall in love with him and take him, I think the Lions will. However, if I honestly were the Lions, Kyle Hamilton is where I would go. I think Kyle Hamilton is an exceptional player, and I think he's one of the best players in this draft. We talked about safeties being undervalued, but I think his positional value gets mitigated by the fact that he can literally play like almost any position on the back end. Like, you could bring him down in the box, have him play off-ball linebacker. He can play corner in spots if you want him to go up against like a more physical receiver, like a Mike Evans. He can cover tight ends. He can play single high. So you have a chess piece like that mitigates whatever kind of positional value. So if I was at 2 and I was Detroit, I would probably go Kyle Hamilton. What I do think is going to happen, though, I think it's going to be Trevon Walker. Like I said, if he isn't gone when the Jags pick at number 1, I think he will be gone to the Lions at number 2.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Hamilton was getting mocked at number 2 almost the entire time from the end of the season until the NFL Combine. And then it's like the Combine hit and everyone's just shocked about these numbers that Walker and some of the other defensive ends are putting out. And then they're like, well, the Lions are looking at quarterbacks now, and everyone's mocking Malik Willis to 2. I still think that was a product of Jordan Reed's 7-round mock draft, because I didn't see anyone mocking Malik Willis to number 2 until that came out. So props Jordan Reed. But yeah, I think that it's just going to be the opposite of what you were saying, and the hometown boy comes back. He stays in Michigan, just moves a little bit and heads to Detroit, and the Lions get someone that, I mean, the marketing potential of a Aiden Hutchinson selection alone is in the millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would just be crazy how Lions fans would be and how happy the city of Detroit would be to bring its son home.
Yeah.
A Michigan player in Michigan. So if he is there, I think that's where the Lions have to go, and they can get a quarterback at 32.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I would absolutely do if I was the Lions at 2 and 32, is I would take blue chip prospects, whoever the highest person is on your board. And then at 32, I would take a QB. So you get that 5th-year option. You get to see him for a year, probably under Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to know at least a little bit, can this guy be the dude? Can he be the guy? But at the same time, if you're not sure about that, you don't really have that much of an allegiance to him if you're picking in the top 10 next year. And that's going to be presumably, at least what it's billed as right now, is a much better QB class. So I think that would be the perfect scenario. You get a young guy, 5th-year option, pick 32, who you're not necessarily committed to. Like if they go Malik Willis at 2, you are hitching your wagon to that dude for the next 3 seasons at minimum. So, yeah, that's what I would do. Blue chip guy at number 2, QB flyer at number 32.
Yes. And last thing on number 2 is the only reason I'm definitely not sold on Kyle Hamilton is because they have a star safety of their own and Tracy Walker there, who they just signed a long-term extension this offseason. So. Okay. Next question here. Who out of the 8 teams, or no, not, it's 9 now, I think, with the Saints included now. I didn't actually count. I knew it used to be 8, but I can't remember if that was with the Saints or without the Saints. I think that was without the Saints, though. So I think it's 9 teams now have multiple first-round picks. Who out of those 9 has to hit? We're talking the Lions, the Eagles, the Saints, the Packers, the Giants, the Jets at 6. Who are the other 3? The Chiefs.
Yeah.
This is all going off memory. I'm not even I'm just spouting. The Seahawks have 2 seconds.
Texans.
The Texans. That's 8. Maybe there is only 8. But yeah, there is only 8. Yeah, the Lions, Jets, Giants, Texans, Eagles, Saints, Packers, Chiefs. There's 8 teams that have multiple first-round picks. Who needs to hit? Who absolutely must nail both picks?
Yeah, I think you split this question up into the rebuilders and the contenders, right? But I think the 2 teams that need to do it the most are the Packers and the Chiefs, because these are championship teams who are missing, though, an absolute key piece at wide receiver. The Chiefs are in a better spot than the Packers are, obviously, because they signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster, but they still need another guy to round out that room. And the Packers absolutely need to hit on a wide receiver early. Because otherwise that offense is just not going to function. It just isn't. No matter how much you try to sell the ground and pound, AJ Dillon just dragging guys 5 yards, if you don't hit on a number 1 wide receiver who can play right away, you're going to be in trouble. It's also why I think they're going to try to double dip, 1 guy in the first round, 1 guy in the second round, just to maximize the potential that they do find that guy. Another team that I do think has to hit are the Jets. I think the Jets are at a position right now that they could make their team materially better in 2 ways. I think if they got Robert Saleh, a true number 1 pass rusher at number 4, whether that is Kayvon Thibodeau, Travon Walker, maybe even Jermaine Johnson, if they're super high on him. And then at 10, you get Zach Wilson his number one wide receiver that he can develop with.
Mhm.
Year 2 development is huge for a young quarterback. And if they don't hit on both those picks, finding Robert Saleh a key defender or finding Zach Wilson a key guy that he can throw the ball to, I think they could very well end up in the same spot that they're picking at next year. So those three is who I would say. I don't think it's the Giants because I think they just need to initiate a full rebuild. You know, you have 2 top 10 picks. You definitely want to hit on those, but you got a new head coach and a new GM in there. Their seats are completely safe no matter what happens this next season because it is kind of like a rebuild. The Eagles don't.
I'll talk. I gotta talk about my two. I got two, but,
Yeah, the Eagles, I don't think necessarily need to hit because Howie Roseman did the excellent trade with the Saints where he kind of expanded the draft capital to next year as well. So he's got multiple hits at it, essentially. So I don't think they necessarily have to hit on both those picks. But those are the three I'd go with: the Jets, the Packers, and the Chiefs.
Yeah, so I am going to go with the Eagles, not just because they're my favorite team. I'm going with the Eagles and Saints. The Eagles, I think both are in similar situations. In terms of what the quarterback spot looks like. Because even though Jameis Winston is older, more experienced, whatever, better passer than Jalen Hurts, I still believe in Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles do too, at least for 2022. So I think in order to make the 2023 draft so much easier, and I mean, they can build a magnificent roster. I believe they have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds next year. 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s. And in order to not have to draft a quarterback, they need to hit on both these picks. If they get another dynamic wide receiver to pair with Devontae Smith, I'm thinking a guy that would be available in their range is probably a Garrett Wilson or a Chris Olave, one of the 2 Ohio State guys. Would love to see that. And then their other pick is open. I've seen so many different guys slotted into one of their 2 picks. I've seen and now I'm blanking on like all the guys that I've seen get mocked to Philly at 18. But I mean, they can go with the linebacker and Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd. They can go with one of the corners in that range, maybe like a Trent McDuffie, or I'm trying to think who's in between McDuffie and Stingley. But I can't think of anyone right now. Even if somehow they find a way to get one of the pass rushers, that if Jermaine Johnson somehow slips to 15, even at 18, I don't know if it would be too far of a stretch to take a guy like Arnold Ebiketie and keep him in state. But that's definitely, I think, the 2 areas they need to hit is wide receiver and pass rush. But I think the second pick is a lot more open. Well, I think both picks are open. It just one of them has to be a wide receiver, I think, and the other one is whatever. I think they'll go defense with the other pick, unless they want to go full in on the offense in round 1 and get a guy like Zion Johnson to bolster their line, because I think there is one spot open. No, there's not right now. But I'm not sure on the status of Brandon Brooks at right guard. Sayomalo is fine at left guard, and obviously Kelsey at center. And tackles are fine too. But yeah, I think the Eagles need to hit on theirs, and the Saints, like I said, I think are in a similar position. They should, except I think their 2 picks are a lot easier to predict. The reason why they got that second pick at 16 specifically was to get ahead of the Chargers for a tackle. They don't have a left tackle right now without Teron Armstead when he's in Miami. Whether that will be Trevor Penning, who has been mocked everywhere to the Chargers at 17, I don't know. But I think 16, they definitely had to take a tackle. And then 19, they have to get a wide receiver. Like we were talking already, the Jarvis Landry visit. Sign Jarvis Landry and draft a wide receiver in the first round. Then you'll have 3 guys in Michael Thomas, Landry, and whoever to give Jameis Winston some firepower on offense.
Yeah. I think the Saints trade was just really interesting because it is a very win now move for a team that is kind of in that fringe dead zone. I mean, I think they can definitely be competitive with Jameis Winston, but I don't know how far they can really go. Is this a team that is really built to win a Super Bowl? They obviously feel that they can, and that's why they traded for these picks. I definitely do. I would add the Saints to that because, like you said, they have a huge hole at left tackle after losing Teron Armstead, and their wide receiver room is not very great right now. One thing that I've been hearing that I find very interesting is the Saints potentially packaging those 2 trades for one of the more blue chip offensive tackles. Not even for a quarterback, one of the Evan Neals, the Charles Crosses, your Ika Mekwanus. Mickey Loomis is no stranger to moving around the board and finding the guys that he wants. So that's an interesting thing to monitor. And I will definitely agree with you that I think the Eagles need to get a wide receiver so that we can really see if Jalen Hurts can be that franchise guy. I think he can be because you look at essentially every year, even going back to his freshman year at Alabama, like he just gets better, just a little better each time. And so when you have that linear progression of a guy, you want to buy into that. Now, you still want to have, another year and to put him in the best situation possible to make sure that he is that guy. Because I think right now he's at the point that if he keeps progressing, he is that dude. But if he caps off at where he is right now this season, I think they'll be looking to draft a QB next year.
Yeah, and I mean it is the quintessential make or break. It's year 3 for Jalen, but it's really only year 2. He only had 1 full season to start. His first season was marred by spot starts in between Carson Wentz. So really technically going into year 2 of actually playing. So I think knowing he's the starter, having a second full off season of knowing he's the guy, I think they'll be fine. And they will be a surprise, just like they were last year. No one expected the Eagles to make the playoffs, I don't think. They did it anyways. Okay, next question here. How many quarterbacks will go in round 1? And which quarterbacks are they? And who are they going to?
Yeah, this is a really good question because it's the question on everybody's mind, right? What is the QB situation? You guys making mock drafts who have all five, like who have the top five guys going. You guys who have mock drafts who don't have any quarterbacks in the first round, which is obviously not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. But that's how people kind of view the class. I think, for my money, I think it's going to be 4. I think you're going to have 4 guys go. And I think it's going to be Malik Willis. I think it's going to be Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, and I think you're going to see Matt Corral sneak in there. Teams that I think could be in that mix, I think you look at the Panthers, you look at the Seahawks for Malik Willis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that potentially those teams just want to ride it out with what they got. You look at the Panthers or the Seahawks, and they say, all right, we'll pick up Baker. We'll have him compete with Sam Darnold, and we'll just ride it out. And we know we're not going to probably make the playoffs, but and then we'll just start fresh next year. Okay. Same thing with the Seahawks. Baker and Drew Lock battle it out. They steer the tank in the direction it needs to go, and they pick a blue chip prospect this year. If Malik Willis starts to fall, I know you're not going to like this, but I think that, there's been some smoke with Mike Tomlin loving Malik Willis, and I wouldn't be surprised if they traded up to get him. But I do think that Malik Willis will go somewhere in the top 10, just because the upside is, it's stupid. I think you could see a potential trajectory of like a Josh Allen. I don't think he'll ever be as good of a player as Josh Allen because he just doesn't have the size that Josh Allen has. But you could see that type of progression. Other guys, I think that the other 3, I think the wheelhouse for them, honestly, is 20 to 32. And 2 teams that aren't maybe obvious and haven't been obvious picks to go quarterback in a lot of mock drafts are the Titans and the Buccaneers. I think that how the season went last year with Tannehill, I think they fully know that he's not their future, and he may no longer be their present. So I think they're definitely going to be looking at guys in this year's draft. And Tampa Bay is one where I don't think, if you looked back maybe like a month or 2 ago, I don't think they would have gone quarterback here. But some of these reports that have been coming out about Tom Brady kind of holding the team hostage with his retirement, potentially pushing out Bruce Arians in order to do so. We've talked about this on the pod before. They stared in the face life without Brady, this offseason. They were looking right into it.
Kyle Trask.
It looked like Kyle Trask, which, maybe they do believe in him in developing. I don't think you bet on that. If I were them, I would look at a guy like Kenny Pickett. I know Kenny Pickett's a little older, and maybe you want him to start right away, right? Because he has the higher floor. So maybe he goes to a different team. But I'm just thinking about Pickett's leadership, his experience, how he wins, and his accuracy, his decision-making. And you sit him for a redshirt year learning from Tom Brady, and then hand him the keys, assuming Brady retires next year. I think that could be a recipe for really good success and potentially, not losing a step in your competitiveness if you're the Buccaneers, especially since their roster is pretty stacked anyways. You draft the quarterback of the future, you have that luxury. And then we talked about this earlier. I think the Lions at 32 are very much in play for a guy like Matt Corral, who has a lot of upside. There are questions about, the offense he played at Ole Miss, not very NFL ready. But I mean, he's super fun to watch. Good runner. He plays physical, another leader, a guy you want to get in your locker room. Dan Campbell always talks about, the kneecap biters, he feels like that guy who can be the face of a franchise. So if he's there at 32, I think you take a flyer on him, got that 5th-year option, see what he can be in your building. So those are the 4 guys I'm looking at, and kind of those are the teams that I think could be in play for him.
Yeah, I think I agree with 4. I was originally going to say 3, and then something popped into my head, which I'll get to. But first off, I'm praying that one of my two teams that need quarterbacks, the Panthers and the Steelers, do not take a quarterback. Because I want one of those two to get Kenny Pickett and the other one to draft whoever they want. That's not Malik Willis. I don't have anything against Malik Willis. I'm not sold on Malik Willis. Considering what I saw at the Senior Bowl, he has a cannon. He does have a cannon. And the rushing ability is also very good. But I just think that I don't know if, because this is a make or break for Matt Rule and the Panthers this year. It seems like that way. It seems like, the owner, David Tepper, is not sold that Rule can get it done and get them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Scott Fitterer was not the original GM with Matt Rule.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a divide there. And I don't think you can justify taking a quarterback that I don't think a quarterback makes you a playoff team, especially a rookie quarterback like Malik Willis.
Yep.
So I think the Panthers are out. But if they aren't, then I think Malik Willis, Panthers at 6. Kenny Pickett to the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just a perfect just like Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions.
Yep.
Kenny Pickett staying in Pittsburgh, I think, would be a massive win. And he doesn't have to start right away, but I think he will. I think he'll beat out Mitchell Trubisky. Because he is the most pro-ready quarterback of any of the ones in this class. So I think he can start from day one. And so Willis to Carolina, Pickett to Pittsburgh, and now it gets fun. Now it gets fun at the end. So the Chiefs have 2 first-round picks, and what else? 50 and 62. So I think the Chiefs are going to draft 2 receivers with their picks in the first 2 days. So I am predicting a trade, probably, maybe not with the Chiefs, maybe with someone else, maybe even with the Bengals at 31. Because the Bengals only have their original 3 picks. So, but the Atlanta Falcons, jumping back into the first round, they have the capital to do it. They have the extra 3rd round pick from the Colts. They have the extra 2nd round pick from the Titans. They only have to go up. If they go to the Bengals, that would be 12 spots. So I think a 3rd round pick would do that. Maybe not. Maybe they have to add in something else. Maybe a 2023 5th or something like that. But the Falcons go up to 31 to take Matt Corral. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I really don't have any reasoning on why Corral would be a good fit in Atlanta. It just is a gut feeling that he feels
Yeah.
like he would fit in Atlanta.
Yep.
Being that he went to Ole Miss in the Southeast, you know, and I think he's similar to Marcus Mariota too, except
Mm-hmm.
Matt Corral is uh, a better runner, tougher runner, I should say, not a better
Mm-hmm.
runner. Mariota is obviously much faster, and I think Matt Corral's a better passer than Mariota too.
Yep.
Was a electric at Ole Miss, so that one is a crazy one that I think could happen. And then Desmond Ritter to the Lions at 32, I think it's a good fit as well. Um, Pocket passer, can run a little bit, not to the extent of Corral or Malik Willis, but
Mm-hmm.
Desmond Ritter seems like I think he's a guy that is more pro ready than people think. Even
Yep.
though it'd be a good situation in Detroit that he would have, like you said, that fifth year option and be able to sit under Jared Goff this year. And maybe even
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the year, we know what the Lions are probably going to be. Maybe Ritter gets a couple starts at the end of the year, like Mahomes did in his rookie year, where he started
Right.
week 17.
Yep. Yeah, I love those fits. And like you said, Ritter's probably the second most experienced quarterback behind Pickett. You know, he's a 4-year starter at Cincinnati, played in college football playoffs, highest levels. Yeah, I really like those fit. I love the Falcons jumping into the back end, back into the first round there. And I mean, that fifth year of control is so valuable to teams, especially for quarterbacks. Getting a quarterback on a rookie deal, you have 5 years to develop him, see if he's the guy, and build a great team around him before you have to pay him insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think absolutely it's in play to for the Falcons to be jumping back, in there. I mean, I would love to see, they take a guy like Jameson Williams or Drake London at 8, trade up to 31 for QB. Matt Corral's throwing bombs to Kyle Pitts and James Williams. Make it happen.
I think the Falcons are a team that no one's talking about with the quarterbacks. It's just weird to me. I mean, they signed Marcus Mariota, which I think was a great signing that they got him on a 2-year deal instead of just a 1-year deal, because it gives them the flexibility that they don't have to go get a quarterback this year. But it also is nice that they can go get one. And if it turns out that they really like the quarterback that they got, they can release Mariota next year at no cost to the cap.
Yep.
So I think that's a good signing by Terry Fontenot down there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one here. This one's probably going to be a quick conversation. Are there any running backs worth taking in the first round this year? If so, who?
No. Just no. I mean, I love Breece Hall, and I think he's my RB1. It's close between him and Kenneth Walker. Really like Kenneth Walker too. But like, if you put those guys in last year's class, they're fourth and fifth. They're not ahead of Javonte Williams. They're not ahead of Travis Etienne. They're not ahead of Najee Harris, in my opinion, in terms of prospects, who they are coming out. I do really like Breece Hall. I think he can be a complete 3-down back. I think that Kenneth Walker can be, especially if he develops more as a pass catcher. But I just don't see the value in this. Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to be a generational prospect in my eyes to go around one as the RB. I think they are more valuable than people give them credit for, but the value just isn't there this year. in my opinion. There isn't a slam dunk guy who is going to be that dude. So,
yeah, I think especially the way the league is going, where many teams are moving toward the committee approach, which we that play fantasy absolutely hate.
yeah.
It's so murky on who's going to get how many carries in each game and whatnot. But yeah, I would agree. I think for a portion of the college season, people were thinking like, yeah, Kenneth Walker's going to go round one. He was dominating people, and then end of the season, it just wasn't there, and Michigan State fell off without him producing the kind of numbers he was. But yeah, I think, I mean, there's going to be running back and tight end. I didn't write that one down. If there was a tight end, which the answer is also no. The running back and tight end, I mean, we might see 10 of those guys combined on day 2 go.
Yep.
I mean, probably, I mean, that's over exaggerating, but you know, I think there's going to be some runs on running backs and tight ends in the second and third rounds, and it's going to be crazy. The value that some of the teams are going to get with those skill positions.
Yeah. And I think that's where the value is in this draft, at both RB and tight end. That's when I feel much more comfortable, especially if I'm like a team like the Bills or maybe even like the Cardinals, if you want to get that guy who you think maybe can put you over the top, help your offense be more dynamic. That's where I feel comfortable taking it. But yeah, no RBs, no tight ends in round 1.
You know what? I forgot to rebut your comment about the Bucks, so I'm going to do that right now. The Bucks, I don't think are anywhere near taking a quarterback in round 1. Reason why? They're all in on Tom Brady. They're going to draft whoever Tom Brady wants them to draft. And they're going to make sure they draft a player that will start right away and will be able to make them a better team from day 1. They're going to worry about the quarterback position when they need to. I don't think they're going to proactively search for their next quarterback. And there's a reason they drafted Kyle Trask with the last pick in the second round last year, 2 years ago. I don't remember when it was.
Yeah. I mean, it boils down to who's making the decisions, Obviously, if it's TB, they're gonna draft they're gonna trade up for Traylon Burks or something, just make it, banana land wide receiver room where anybody can take it to the house. But yeah, I mean, if I were the GM, I would be looking at QB of the future. I don't think Kyle Trask is it. And I don't want to take the chance on Tom Brady leaving, again. And I mean, this has to be his last year, right? I mean, we keep saying that, right? And it just isn't, but
it's not going
to I agree with you. I definitely could see the avenue where they just say, you know what, our window is this year. Let's just get an impact player. But yeah.
It's not going to be his last year until he wins another Super Bowl.
He's going to be collecting Social Security when he finally retires. Like he's like.
All right. Last question here. Trades in the first round. Do we think there will be a lot of movement or a little amount of movement?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a ton. I mean, maybe not a ton, but I think there's going to be definitely more movement than we've seen in recent years for the very reason that we talked about. There's 8 teams with multiple first round picks. that is a lot of people with a lot of capital who have maximum flexibility in where they can move around on the board to get the guys they want. So that's why I think there's going to be a lot, you know, even in a class where maybe there isn't a lot of blue chip guys, like there isn't a lot of generational prospects, there actually probably isn't a single generational prospect in the draft, unlike last year where you had Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Pitts, that kind of guy. I still think you're going to have a lot of movement on the board.
I am on the opposite end. I don't think there's going to be many trades. It just, to what you were saying, there's not a lot of guys that are worth trading high picks for, especially I know you mentioned the 8 teams that have multiple firsts, but especially if you're a team that's looking at a guy that doesn't have multiple firsts and you're looking at trading picks next year to go up and get someone. Because how it sounds right now is that there are a lot of teams in the top 10 that don't want to be in the top 10. They want to get out. Specifically, the Jets at number 10. I think they'll stay at 4, but I think they want to move out of 10. I think the Giants possibly at 7. They probably will stay though. And then the other team, I think the Seahawks at 9 kind of want to move out because they need so many things, and they can get someone else later in the draft. I think the Eagles will make a trade. Howie Roseman always looks into every single trade. He's the best GM in the NFL. I'll keep saying that. But yeah, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of movement once it hits 8:00 Eastern next Thursday. There's going to be, I'm capping it at 3 first round picks.
That's the over under.
That's probably going to be under. I would say max is 4, but max is 4, 5. I think 5 is too much though. All right. That is all that we had for the burning questions. So just seeing if there's anything else that popped up on the Twitter feed, and it doesn't look like it. So let's get into these USFL week 2. So the game tonight's kicking off in 30 minutes. Or no.
We got to wrap it up. CT.
Hour and a half. It's at 7 Central. So, but yeah, the Michigan Panthers, I put at on all 4 of these games. They're not at anyone. They're in the same stadium.
Yeah.
And they're all playing in Birmingham.
Did they explain why that is?
Money. It's cost effective to have all the teams in Birmingham.
Because why?
Short season.
Because the Michigan Panthers aren't really the Michigan Panthers.
Yeah, I think for the first season, it made sense money wise.
Yeah.
There's no travel costs, especially with the economy right now and how gas prices are. Makes a lot of sense in that regard. And also, I think it makes sense too. They're doing this. They're going to try to get a fan base foundation. And once they have that, then they'll go next year and travel to each place, I think also maybe, I can't remember when they started planning for this season, but I think also another issue is they might not have had the stadium deals in each place to play their games there. So that's also another factor I think is maybe an issue. But so tonight's game, 0-1 versus 0-1. I am rolling with the Generals. This was the only one out of the 4 games that I am picking against myself, against my preseason picks. Originally, I had Michigan winning this. But the thing is, Michigan was absolutely terrible in week 1. In the first half, anyways. First half, Shea Patterson and Paxton Lynch were just trash. Shea Patterson eventually almost led them to a comeback, losing by 5, but throwing for 192 yards. But yeah, they fumbled 9 total times in that game. 5 of them were by the quarterbacks. Each quarterback lost only 1, though. And on the New Jersey side, their rushing offense they're the number 1 rushing offense in the USFL after week 1. They ran for 223 yards last week. 98 of that was from quarterback DeAndre Johnson, which I think he will get the start over Louis Perez because of that rushing ability. I think that's a big factor in their offense, and that's what they want to do. Darius Victor and Trey Williams, they're 2 leading running backs. I think they're gonna get it done. And Generals just a 1-point favorite right now, so the books at least think it's gonna be a close game. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. The thing about that is that the Panthers defense was very good. Obviously, I said they almost came back. They were down 17-0, and they, came back to 17-12. So I think their defense can hold up. It's just I don't know if they can against the running attack and the dual threat of DeAndre Johnson at quarterback.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Panthers seem to have the most prolific quarterback room in terms of star power, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I mean, those guys will have to get it together if they want to take on, New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, and in their own right, the Panthers have a pretty good running attack as well. Last week, they put up 190 rushing yards with Stevie Scott and Cameron Scarlett, their top 2 rushers there. So, yeah, we'll have to see if Patterson can hold on to the ball and if Lynch plays again or not. Over under for this one is 40.5. I am hammer that under. Like I said, the running game should slow the clock down, or should speed it up, I should say, for the Generals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest factor on why it's going to be under 40.5. And plus, last week unders went 3-1. So get the unders while you can, while they're in the 40s still.
While they're hot.
Yeah. That one tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on USA. Tomorrow we got a doubleheader. The Pittsburgh Maulers at the Philadelphia Stars, both 0-1 as well. And they dubbed this rivalry week. So Michigan against New Jersey is going to be the rivalry that they're creating there. This is a traditional rivalry here, cross-state. What's crazy is that this is the biggest spread of the weekend. I cannot believe the Philadelphia Stars are getting 6.5. For one, because I picked Philadelphia to finish last in the league. I am just not sold that Brian Scott, Division III Occidental College. I am not sold that them putting up 17 points, which was the second highest of the 4 losers last week against the New Orleans Breakers. No, I'm not sold on that, man. He threw a pick, and I like the Maulers plus 6.5. I think they'll cover that easily. And I like the Maulers to win too. Pittsburgh looked absolutely terrible. I will say that. They only put up 3 points. The only team didn't score a touchdown last week. But they were playing, in my mind, the best team in the USFL and Tampa Bay Bandits. And the team that I have. And they just couldn't. Their ground and pound game with Kirby Wilson wasn't working. But I think they'll be able to do that. And I think it will work against the Stars. The Stars allowed the 3rd most rushing yards of the 8 teams last week. They gave up 171 rushing yards to New Orleans last week. So I think Garrett Groshek should be able to get it going. And they run a formation. I think they just call it big. Garrett Groshek, Madre London. Hopefully, we'll take the pressure off of Josh Love, and they should be able to get that done. And on the defensive side, Pittsburgh was the same thing that Michigan was. They shut out Tampa Bay in the second half. It was 17-0 at halftime. And they didn't allow a single point in the second half. So I think they'll carry that defensive momentum over to this game and make life difficult for Brian Scott and the Stars offense.
Yeah, I think anytime you got a chance to hit plus 6.5, especially considering like we're still feeling these teams out. Like I don't know how Vegas feels that confident that the Stars are going to run away, with this game. They must have some inside track that we don't, but yeah, I agree with you. I would take the Maulers plus 6.5.
Yeah, and this one is a murky over under. It's 34.5. These teams combined to score 20 points last week. 3 for Pittsburgh, 17 for Philly. So I wouldn't touch that one at all.
Yeah.
And that one tomorrow is 12 p.m. on Fox. Got to get up early for that one. 11 a.m. Central kick. Okay, the second game tomorrow, the Birmingham Stallions, hometown team. They are facing the Houston Gamblers, both coming off wins last week. The Stallions are 3-point favorites here. I feel like the Stallions are going to be favored in every game because they're the hometown team. But I'm picking Houston. This is the second week in a row that I'm picking Houston as an underdog. I picked them last week, and they beat the Panthers. And I'm picking them again this week. I think that for one, Clayton Thorson, there was an article, I didn't read it on the Fox Sports app, but there was an article that had a title about Clayton Thorson being the greatest, what was it? The USFL's emerging star is Clayton Thorson. So, I mean, can't go against that. But also, I think Houston had the 4th best rushing attack in week 1. They ran for 100 total yards. And I already said about how New Jersey put up 223 yards last week on the ground. That was against the Stallions. Now the Generals still lost. The Stallions were somehow able to win that game. They came back to win that game. But I just think the rushing attack with Mark Thompson and Dalen Dawkins, specifically Mark Thompson, he's their main guy. I don't know how they're going to stop it if they put on another defensive performance like they did against Jersey last Friday. And on Birmingham's side, we'll have to see how Jamar Smith does in a full game, considering he didn't play the full game last time. He had to come in after Alex Magoo got hurt. I haven't heard the status of Magoo. So I'm not sure if he is not going to play or what the situation is there. But yeah, I just think that was the biggest thing for me was the rushing defense by Birmingham. Right. Will they be able to stop Houston or not? I don't think they will.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Gamblers in this one too. And it's not just because I think they have the coolest look of the USFL. I think it was Monday's episode. We walked through kind of the week one results, and I liked what I saw from Houston, and I like them in this game too.
I will say, I think they had the worst logo of all the teams. Though.
Really? Dude, I love it.
It looks like it was drawn by a 4-year-old. All the other ones are like professionally digitally designed.
Dude, it's unique.
Yeah, the over-under, we're taking the under again in this one. It's 41. Like I said, if it's in the 40s, take it. I mean, why not?
Free money.
That one, see, I don't know why they did that. Why did they do this? So they have the first game tomorrow is at 12, and the second game is at 7 on FS1. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do from 3 to 6 here in Central Time? What am I gonna do?
Your property outline.
Finishing my brief. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
All right. The last game on the docket this weekend is the best game. They saved the best for last. The New Orleans Breakers against the Tampa Bay Bandits. Tampa's getting 2.5 here. It's a tricky line. But this is literally the best game. I will hands down, I would bet any amount of money this is going to be the best game. Because these are my number 1 and 2 teams on my preseason slate there. Had Tampa winning it all, had New Orleans finishing second. Obviously, that can't technically happen because they play in the same division. But I think these will be the 2 teams that play in the playoffs for the South Division because it's the top 2 in each division go. So I have both these teams finishing 8-2. And I believe both of the losses for New Orleans are both to Tampa. Maybe that's wrong. I might have split them because they play a second time later, but that is one of the reasons. And also, Jordan Ta'amu, I think I said this on Monday, but Jordan Ta'amu is going to be the USFL MVP this season. He only threw for 185 yards week 1. I think that will get better. Their receiving core is fantastic. Led by Jordan Lasley, Rashard Davis, and Vinny Papali. And they have another star in tight end Cheyenne O'Grady, who was a monster last week. 8 receptions. I think it was 89 yards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, their offense. I mean, their defense, too. Their defense was spectacular as well. They held the Maulers to the least amount of points last week, only giving up 3. And for New Orleans, their defense is also very good. Are they the ones that have? I believe they are the team that has my Georgia boy. Yes, New Orleans has the leading sacker in the league, and also the USFL's Defensive Player of the Week, Davin Bellamy from Georgia, had a hat trick last week, 3 sacks.
Nice.
So I think this will be a close game, and maybe Tampa covers on a field goal, but we've seen how kicking has gone in the first week for the USFL. So I wouldn't guarantee that they'll cover the spread with a 3-point field goal there, but maybe they cover, maybe they don't. I wouldn't touch the 2.5.
Yeah. As a Packers fan, I can attest special teams is hard enough in the NFL. So I would not bet on that. I would not bet on special teams being reliable.
Yeah, I really like New Orleans too. Kyle Sloter at quarterback, Jordan Ellis, TJ Logan at running back, Johnny Dixon, my boy from Arkansas State, Jonathan Adams, and
Jonathan Adams, dude, I had a draft crush. I had a draft crush on Jonathan Adams last year.
Chad Williams as well. There are 3 wide receivers there for the Breakers. And I still think that's the best team name, the Breakers. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the colors. I like their name. Great times.
Yeah. Their look is sick too.
Over 40.5. Hit the under, but and that one on Sunday, 3 p.m. on NBC. I'll have the multi-screen with the NASCAR race and USFL. But next week we won't have a show. It's Draft Friday. We won't have a show. But you won't want us to have a show on Friday anyways, considering you'll be with us for 4 hours of live draft coverage of the first round next Thursday. So, but the Friday after that, May 6th, when we have a final. I don't remember which one that is, but we don't have a final May 6th. We have a final May 5th. That's good. That's good.
I'll still be recovering.
That's good. We don't gotta worry about having a final, and then I gotta write the script and everything. We'll be good. We'll be fine. But yeah, May 6th will be our next Friday show. We'll have post-draft coverage week 1 of that. And we'll also be talking USFL week 3. And that show is when we are going to begin our draft recaps. And we're going to go up the draft order. So we're going to start with the AFC South, since the Jags have the number 1 pick. And we will talk about all 4 teams in that division. What do we think their outlook looks like, just preliminarily. We'll do a deeper dive later in the summer once we get close to training camp. But yeah, it'll also be interesting because we'll get that perspective, and then we have the schedule come out 6 days later. So we'll have to see. We'll also have to see how the show schedule changes in terms of me and my internship as well. So that is the show for today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Facebook. We will be back on Monday. Logan will have his first round mock ready and loaded.
Yes, sir.
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about anything else. Maybe a Debo trade goes down this weekend. We'll see. But thank you all for watching.